Yo, 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 what's up? My name is Emily. If you're new here, sorry, my family group chat is blowing up right now. Anyways, today we're going to talk about what to do when you feel like you want to rip your hair out and your blood sugars are driving you crazy. Okay, how to stop chasing shit, your blood sugars, and start solving the actual problem and why this actually matters for pregnancy. We're going to get to that, so make sure you stick around for that point. Don't mind my hair. I still am learning how to style these bangs, so we're just working with what we got. Okay, so what you're going to learn in this little mini training is why your blood sugars can sometimes feel random. A mistake I think a lot of people are making, and I was making it myself, so don't feel bad. This is a judgment-free zone. And then this little framework that I think is going to save you a lot of headache and hopefully help your blood sugars too. So again, if you don't know me, my name is Emily. I was diagnosed at 10. I am now 33. So I've been living with type 1 diabetes for 23 years now. But I did pretty much live, I would say, uncontrolled. Actually, my chart said uncontrolled for about 15 years. And it wasn't for lack of trying. I felt like I tried really hard to have control over this disease, and it just felt like no matter what I did, nothing really worked. I tried low carb, I tried keto, I tried plant-based, I tried all of these things, and diets and tricks and things that I thought would help me have better control over this disease, and they didn't really help me, or they helped me maybe for like a little bit, but specifically like when I was doing low carb, that did help me lower my A1C a little bit, but I felt very restricted, and it just didn't feel like a sustainable way to live for me personally. So I also was terrified of pregnancy and becoming a mom, but truly, I grew up watching kids, babysitting kids, nannying, and so I always really wanted to be a mom, but because of my diabetes, I was very, very afraid. Um, and honestly, it wasn't really until I got pregnant with my daughter about, gosh, almost 8 years ago now. That's crazy to say. It wasn't until then that I actually figured out how to have better management of this disease and how to kind of have a repeatable system that actually worked for me. And then I started helping other people do it too. And I helped hundreds of other T1D women as well. So I really realized that I didn't need to be perfect. Again, I just needed a system and skills that help me in real life, because there's a difference between what I call textbook diabetes and what doctors teach and real life diabetes, right? It's not as simple as just saying, like, oh, check your blood sugar, count your carbs, take your insulin, and you're good. Like, no, if that were the truth, then we would all have great blood sugars, I'm sure. Um, so the biggest mistake that I was making, I think, well, I guess one of the mistakes that I was making and that I think a lot of people make is reacting to blood sugars. There's no real system or repeatable skills here. You're just constantly reacting and not really learning how to respond to them, right? And for me, I know that felt like every high, every low, every A1C check. I felt like I was constantly being graded. Okay. And I just felt like I was failing for such a long time. And it felt like, again, no matter what I did, I just couldn't get a handle on how to actually have control over this disease. I'm trying to make sure that I'm like in the middle of this tiny little bubble so you can see me. But the truth here is that blood sugars aren't really as random as we make them out to be. There's usually a reason. Now, sometimes those reasons are a little bit more out of our control. Yes, like hormones, the weather, whether you were able to get a good night's sleep or not. If you're a mom, you know. But most of the time, there is a reason, right? And I really had to get out of this victim mindset of being like, why does diabetes hate me? Why is this so hard? Why do I have to be the one that has to deal with these things? And I had to shift that to being like, okay, this is information. What is this information telling me? What can I do with this information? So, step one is what I call the zoom out or the bird's eye view approach. So, this is particularly important when you get pregnant too. But one high, one day, or even a week of out of range blood sugars is not going to ruin everything for you. I think so many of us put a lot of weight on each blood sugar reading. And while you might think that that's like, okay, yeah, that's important. Like, we need to be paying attention to our blood sugars and like that's how we lower our A1C, right? It's like, well, not exactly, because when you're putting so much weight on that one blood sugar or that one day, or you had an off week or whatever it is, you're actually kind of making things harder for yourself than it should be, right? So we want to zoom out, right? We want to look at the big picture here. How is your A1C? How is your time in range? What is your standard deviation? What is your average blood sugar, right? If those are in a pretty good place, then like you're doing pretty well, okay? And if not, of course, there's things that we can change there too. But the most important thing I think is just to stop putting so much pressure and meaning and emotion behind every blood sugar. Um, yeah, and just for example, if you went high after breakfast one day, that doesn't necessarily mean you need to change your insulin to carb ratio, right? Like one day is not a pattern. We want to look at the big picture, which brings me to my next step. Step number 2 is look for the patterns. Okay, we're zooming out, right? We're not judging one number and making changes on just that one number, right? So again, we want to look for the patterns here. If you are having a similar issue at every, well, I'm going to go over an example next, but really you want to ask yourself, like, is this happening every day? Is it happening at the same time? Is it happening after every certain meal time or a certain type of food? Is it happening before or after exercise, around my cycle? Or like, what is the pattern that I can find here that will then allow me to make a more informed decision on what I need to change? So again, the example here is like, okay, if you're spiking to the 200s after breakfast on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, regardless of what you're eating, then there's probably a reason why, right? That's not just part of being a diabetic. Yes, you will have fluctuations in your blood sugars, and that's normal. But if you are consistently spiking after a specific meal and not coming back into range, and you're like, what the hell is going on here? Let's look at why, right? Do you need to increase, or sorry, that should say decrease your insulin to carb ratio so you're getting more insulin for the amount of carbs you're eating? Maybe you need to work on your pre-bolus. Maybe you need to do a better job at food pairing and figuring out what foods that you eat together to support your blood sugars better. Step 3, the rule of 1. So really what this comes down to is once you find the pattern, and maybe you're not exactly sure why it's happening yet, but you have noticed that, okay, I'm spiking after breakfast every day, or, most days. Instead of changing your insulin to carb ratio, your pre-bolus, your food pairing, and like what you're actually eating for breakfast, and changing all of these things at once, we want to start with changing one thing, giving that some time and seeing if that helped, right? This is where we kind of turn into a little scientist. We take that information, we make a plan, we adjust, and then we look at what happens. So again, let's do that same example. You're spiking to 200, and first you just start with trying your pre-bolus 10 minutes earlier and see if that works. You give it a couple days, then you assess the information again. If it's still not working, okay, let's try a different variable that we're going to change here, right? Don't be changing all of these things at once, because then you don't actually know what the issue was, right? So just remember, once you find the pattern, change one thing at a time, okay? And usually that can make a pretty big difference. The mindset shift that I had to change here, and that I think a lot of people struggle with, is we live in this almost victim mentality sometimes of like, my diabetes is out of my control, right? But what we're trying to do here is shift it to thinking, okay, my diabetes is just giving me data, right? Again, I'm a little scientist. Okay. If you're a little nerd, then maybe you like that. But whether you are a nerd or not, having this mindset of like, okay, I'm a scientist, this is just data. I'm taking this data in, I'm making changes where I need to and adjusting moving forward, and then reassessing the data after I've given it time, right? It becomes so much simpler, and it takes so much of the pressure and weight off of you. And that's a big piece of diabetes, right? Like, the mental aspect of this disease is a huge piece of it that I don't think people consider enough. So why does this all matter for pregnancy? Well, because despite what you might think, pregnancy isn't about having perfect blood sugars 24/7, right? It's about really learning how to make calm, informed decisions and having those repeatable methods, skills, systems, right? Because especially with pregnancy, things are going to be changing constantly. And if you can't learn how to, number one, take the emotion out of it, zoom out, find the pattern, change one thing at a time, give it time and see what happens, and then adjust again if you need to. Like, if you can't get into that um, formula, framework, whatever you want to call it, it's going to make pregnancy feel so challenging for you because it is constantly changing. Okay. And for me, using this method, this framework here that I just explained, these 3 steps, um, have helped me maintain an A1C in the 5s for all 3 of my pregnancies. And I definitely was not having perfect blood sugars 24/7. If you followed me for a while, I share, like, where my blood sugars are at. I also share what is possible for pregnancy as a type 1, because I think that's really important too, and just showing you that you don't have to be perfect to have an A1C in the 5s and have a healthy pregnancy, okay? And so this is why I created my guide. It's 190 pages, called Limitless, the T1D Motherhood Method is the full name. I usually just call it Limitless because that's less of a mouthful. But this is where I teach the complete system, skills, frameworks that I wish I had had those 8+ years ago before I got pregnant. And honestly, before that too, because what I teach is applicable for just living life with diabetes in general, whether you're pregnant or trying to get pregnant or not. And inside this guide, you will learn, of course, blood sugar management, how to lower and maintain your A1C, what to do and how to prep for trying to conceive, pregnancy and what to expect, how to manage your insulin resistance, how to have better control, how to not drive yourself crazy, food, and how to not restrict yourself. Because again, for me, like, low carb is just not it. It's a tool that I can use at times if I need and want to. But it's not a tool that is long-term sustainable for me. It's just not, okay? I like food and I don't want to be cutting out carbs, okay? And this is, I have found that that's not required in order to have well-controlled blood sugars. That's kind of the point too, right? I go over exercise and how to have better control when you're doing that, labor, postpartum, breastfeeding, all of that, mindset shifts that really truly matter, and how to live in a much more empowered place with this disease, and just real life strategies from me, someone who's been living with this disease for 23 years and been through 3 pregnancies and worked with hundreds of other T1D women to help them have healthy pregnancies and babies as well. Okay. So thank you for being here. We're about the 15-minute mark, so hopefully your attention span was able to last for that long. I hope that you start using these steps, this framework, to help yourself when you're feeling in that like stressed out period with your blood sugars. And just I hope this reminds you that you don't need to be like doing more or being perfect to have good control over your diabetes. You just need a better system. And honestly, nine times out of 10, we're not learning that from our doctors, unfortunately. So if you're ready to learn more on the frameworks and the system and skills that I teach inside Limitless, I will put the link below for you. And this is just some of the feedback I've gotten from people who have purchased Limitless already. And as always, my DMs are always open. I'm at the beauty and living __ on Instagram as well as TikTok. So you can always send me a message if you have any questions. And if you do purchase the guide, you want to, send me a message about if it's helping you, what it's helped you with, or if there's any specific questions you still have. That's really helpful for me too, because I do make updates to it as well. And once you purchase, you get access to those those updates forever, so you don't have to like pay more once I add more stuff or make changes or anything like that. So okay, I think that is all. Again, send me a message if you have any questions, but I hope you find this helpful, and I will hopefully see you around. Okay,